Welcome to another episode of Overcome Out Loud with Charlie Smith. This podcast is dedicated to sharing the courageous stories of men and women that have overcome adversity in their lives to give other people hope. And today I'm joined by Mike Conklin. Mike is the founder of Better Beginnings Now. He is a certified recovery coach and life coach, actually through the Jay Shetty School, which I'm really excited to hear about. Jay's incredible and
Oh, he's
super,
awesome.
yeah, super cool that you got and went through his program, and he's a speaker and a major influencer in the way of helping people overcome adversity, and really that came from his own path of overcoming adversity. We cannot transmit something we haven't got, and he's got it. So Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much, man. Charlie, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Anytime I get to, a chance to get in front of some people and talk about, you know, getting over life struggles and adversities, it's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
Yeah, it's so great. So tell us. I think everyone learns a little bit from origin story. Tell us a little bit about what early life was like for you, and kind of how you spent your time growing up, and then what happened.
Okay. So, I held out pretty much as long as I possibly could, with drinking and drugs. And so the first time that I got drunk, with the intent of getting drunk, I was 9, and I blacked out for the first time when I was 11. So
You got a few years on me. I started at 12.
yeah,
Jesus.
see, so I mean, we really did, that's why I say, I held out as long as I could. And, I think about that. I have 3 kids, and, when I was able to, when I stopped, my sobriety started, my daughter was 10, my son was 7, and my other son had just turned 5. And I think about that, I think about the concept that I was 9 years old and I was looking to get drunk, and my kids were not that way. Thank God. It's just, it blows my mind, but I had a good life. I mean, I did, I had, parents that did the best they could. I pretty much middle class, working family. My father's parents were right up the road, and, my grandfather to this day, is probably the most influential and, person I find to be one of the most important people in my life. And had I heeded some of his advice early on in my life, I probably would have gone down a different path for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I didn't have this insanely terrible upbringing. I will say that I was very willful. I spoke my mind a lot, and I looked for adventure. And that got me in a world of trouble, a lot of times with my dad. My dad didn't take lightly to that. I would definitely say, like, in today's day and age, would you consider it like abuse? Maybe, like, I looked at it as, I knew the consequences. I knew that if I got caught doing the things I was doing, I knew my dad was not going to be happy, and I knew that I was probably going to catch an ass whipping for it. And I did plenty of times, and, I think that kind of fueled my fire a lot of the times. Like, while I went through my teen years and stuff, I did well in school. I was an honor roll student. I popular amongst my peers. I played varsity sports. I did all of those things, but all the while, I partied a lot, and I mean, I had, classmates all the way through school that used to be like, I don't know how the hell you do it. You are out all weekend long. You never do homework. You don't do shit, and you still pull the grades and stuff. And I'm like, it was easy. School was easy for me. I got along well with my teachers. I didn't do anything. I was a master manipulator even then. I mean, I was like, my mom said as a young kid, I should have been a lawyer, because I always negotiated with my teachers, like, well, you need to do this, this, and this, or you're going to fail. And I'd be like, well, what if I did this and this and this, and then you gave me a grade? And they'd be like, okay. What I mean? Like, and that's just how my life was. It was that way. And my mom used to say all the time, like, I just had this way of stepping in shit and coming out smelling like a rose. And that was the story of my life, even with drinking. I mean, I graduated high school. I went to, I was, I had to apply for it to be an exchange student, to be a foreign exchange student through the Rotary program. And out of like 400 applicants, I was like one of the 5. So I was to spend a year abroad in France. And I would have to say that that's probably where my drinking just took off. I was in a foreign country, 18 years old, just graduated high school, and I'm allowed to drink. Um, and I did, I was only there I was supposed to be there a year. I was there 2.5 months. My grandmother got very sick. And like I said, my grandparents I was very close to them, and I made the arrangements and I said, I'm coming home. And, my grandparents didn't want me to come home. They said, no, you stay. And then I was like, I can't be here knowing that she's in the hospital. So I went home. Thank God she lived. Everything turned out great. But that is where, when I talk about, a lot of times we have pivotal moments in our lives, and looking back in hindsight, I can undoubtedly say that that was a time in my life where my drinking just really escalated. I had incredible blackouts while I was there, ending up in other towns, like in a foreign country, not knowing where I was, what I mean, which is insanity. I think about it now. Came back home, ended up going to, went away to college, another geographical change. I went down to University of North Carolina in Wilmington. I was there one semester because I didn't do the things that I was supposed to be doing. And I let things slip on by, and my financial aid and things weren't in place the way they should have been for second semester, and I couldn't go back. So I was like, okay. So then I moved. I decided, what, I'm going to go to Florida, and the drinking just continued a lot. And then along with the drinking came along a lot of other things. I was always just looking for something more and more and more and more. And then,
that fuse got lit you lit that fuse at 9 years old. And so as you talk about the progression of this drinking, I think one of the things that I think people that struggle to understand the progression of alcoholism or addiction is, it's really not about what you were drinking, and it's not about how much you were drinking. There was a why you were drinking that you hadn't uncovered yet. And, so despite all of these appearances to the outside, I think a lot of people can relate to this kind of feeling like on the outside, you described lots of success, right? Doing well in school. How you were doing it was one thing, but you were popular. You were doing well in school. You had a good family. To the outside world,
everything's
looks
great.
Like Mike's got to be okay. How did you feel inside? What did the drink do to you? And what if you could identify what the insides of you were like?
I know what it is now. I know what that feeling was, that I was, I was lost. I had no idea what I was looking for. I was always looking for something. I just didn't know what the hell I was looking for. There was always a lot of chatter, there was just a lot of noise in my head. I was always just wanted to go, 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 go. And I had no idea what I was looking for. Like you said, I know what it is now, but it's very confusing when we're in the middle of that. Like, that fuse being lit early, like we were discussing with my grandfather. I was about 16 years old, and we were at a family picnic, and I had a couple of beers at the family picnic and then went off with my friends later on. My grandfather, the very next day, said to me, because I went up to his house to mow his lawn. So I get up, and I did that every week, went to mow the lawn. So I get up there, and he was just like, just a normal conversation like he would with me. He just said, "Hey, bub." And I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "You got to be careful." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "As soon as you have a couple in you, you can see it in your eyes. You're ready to go." And I was like, what do I didn't understand what he meant, but he knew that something in me just clicked, and just as soon as I started, there was a switch and there was no off, and that is the progression. Like, and I had that very young, like I always was, it was just go, 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 go until who knows what happens. It is progressive.
Somebody uninstalled the off switch in Mike.
Oh yeah. I don't know if it was ever in, I don't know if they left that one out for sure. They left the off switch, and I know that now, I know that now. It's just, it was a hard lesson to learn. A lot of consequences came along with that.
Well,
but
people talk about, the importance of self-esteem. They talk about the importance of self-confidence, but really the most important thing I think that we can teach others is self-acceptance. Is to be able to be still and understand who you are, and that, I mean, I so relate to that idea of just having to get somewhere else. It's like anywhere else but here is going to be better,
Yeah.
even though it seems good here. It's like, we're chasing. In fact, I was sharing with Heather, it's like when you're always thinking that you'll be happy when, you're always chasing when, and when just it's just the next when, it's the next what.
Yeah. And I think that's, you just hit the nail on the head for me. Um, that identity and being comfortable with who we are. Like, and that, I think, was the thing that eluded me the most.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, I was friends with everyone. When you think you look back at high school and everything is very cliquey, there's this group and this group and this group and this group. I was friends with them all. I got along with everybody. I knew how to fit in with anyone. And that's, and I think that really was a big part of, I want my disease, whatever it was. Like, I wanted to fit in with everyone. I didn't want to be disliked for the most part by people. As to where today I am who I am, and I wear my heart on my sleeve for the most part. And it's like, you like it or you don't. And I know for a fact that not everybody is going to like what I have to say, and that's okay. But there are plenty of people that do, and that's okay. But I wasn't okay with that, in the past. I really did. I think that, if I knew that somebody didn't like me, I wanted to know why. Well, what did I do? Maybe I can change. Maybe I can do something different. I never drank to fit in, that, like, I wasn't drinking to fit in with a group. I drank for the effect produced by alcohol, period. I tell that to people all the time. Like, why did you drink? Because I liked what it did for me. And you hit the nail on the head before too, when you said, I just didn't want to be right here, right now. That's it. Anything that takes me out of this very moment, perfect. I want that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was always thinking about the things that had happened yesterday. What the hell am I going to do with my future? I was so lost in this and uncomfortable sitting here. Like, and now I know, like, the beauty, like the absolute beauty of, of sobriety and like real recovery is that I can sit here with you right now and like, no, like, this is it. This is the moments of life that I'm actually living, and I love it, and it's truly a gift to be able to be comfortable where I am today, because that eluded me for 33 years of my life. 33 years of my life, I was, just kind of like, man, I just don't know what the hell to do with myself, and
Well, I tell people, and I think it was true for me. We do things in pattern because we get a payoff, right? So over and over again, we do these things, and we're good until we're not, right? So like for
yeah,
you, you used all of these kind of skills that you would learn. Obviously, you would develop some real, personality traits about fitting in with people. So you were obviously, an extrovert, and you obviously, were social and you got along with people. You obviously were a manipulator. You could get your way. You could find your way through. You were a survivor, right? So
yeah,
from from being abroad to coming home to North Carolina to now getting down to Florida, and as you said, you have this belief that, and your mom said it, and I'm sure you believed it. I step in a lot of shit and I come out smelling like a rose. So why do I have to change anything? Because it's,
yeah,
as far as you were concerned, I'm sure, although I'm asking more than
it's working.
it's working.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, I don't know if it could be described any better. Like, I literally just knew, I intuitively knew that no matter what, like, it's no big deal. I mean, I ended up, in Florida, I ended up, I woke up, handcuffed to a hospital gurney,
It's
and
working. It's
thinking to
working.
myself, like, what the hell is going on? And it was working because, what? Once once the test came back with the two police officers that were standing there, and the doctor came back, because they were convinced, the police officers were convinced that I'm going to jail because I'm on drugs, and this kid is out of his mind, and they were waiting. They knew it. The doctor comes back and they go, I don't know what you're waiting for. This kid he has no drugs in his system. It's just alcohol. He's drunk. And they were like, are you kidding me? So all they could do is they had to wait. They literally had to wait for me to sober up, and then they had to let me go. And I was like, ha, that's the way I looked at it. Ha, got away with another one, until like 2 weeks later, and I got arrested again, in Florida, and then this time I'm handcuffed in the back of a police car and I'm being maced, while I'm handcuffed in the back of the police car, and then I end up in jail overnight. It's just like, but I got away, another situation where like no repercussions except, well, got to wait till you sober up. You'll sit in the drunk tank for the night. And like, listen, when I was a kid, if you would have said to me, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never would have said, I want to be an alcoholic and an addict. And I want to be like, arrested and hanging out in hospitals, handcuffed to a hospital bed. Those weren't my dreams and aspirations, and if you asked me when I was younger, if that would ever have happened, there's no way. I mean, my father and my grandfather would have kicked my butt, if those were the things that were, if they were there, they would have like, I would have caught a real ass whipping, when I came home from the police station that day. But, the people I was staying with down there, I didn't even tell them, when I got released because I didn't have to. I just got, I got released on my own recognizance and I walked home from the police station, like 14 miles. And it was, 108 degrees outside. I was like, but I didn't want to tell anybody what had happened. I just figured, got away with another one,
I think what a great segue into just talking a little bit about the values that we lose sight of. I mean, people ask a lot about the symptoms of alcoholism or addiction or unhealthy living, and we can look at the physical consequences, right? There's the getting in trouble, the going to jail, the experiential consequences. But there's also this shallow loss of living a principled life. It's like when I hear you say I couldn't tell anybody, how much of a trait was dishonesty for you as your disease progressed and as you started to run into this trouble?
Lied about everything,
Yeah.
And that's like, we don't, I say we don't even see it. And I can only speak for myself. And I always try to keep things on me. And that's why I think that, I end up being able to relate with some people in this program and in, in recovery is that I always keep it on me. And I think that people identify with the fact that I can say I lied about everything. And I told so many lies that I literally started to believe them myself because I told them so many times. The stories that I told them so many times that I almost had to start wondering, like, how much of that is actually a lie? Is some of it true or is all of it a lie? And then it's like, well, I actually think it's pretty kind of true. And none of it was true, and I lied about everything, where I was, who I was with, what I was doing, how much of it I was doing. And then you lie to yourself, because you have to like you said, because like morally in my core values that were instilled in me as a kid, like I said, like the most important person in my like life, like the man that I looked up to the most being my grandfather, these are like, if he ever found out like all of the things I was doing, like I just thought to myself, like, oh, he'll be so ashamed of me. So like, it's not that bad is what I would continually tell myself. Like, it's not so bad, and then I even questioned that, like, right up to the end, I questioned right up to the end, how bad is it really? And it's not until you really sit down and dig through it and you look at the wreckage, the damages that you did all along the way, like, then you can say like, how bad was it? Sometimes, I tell people like, as you start putting some time together, you start questioning like, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, and I tell people all the time, if you ever want to know how bad it was, ask the people that love you the most and that were closest to you. Was it really that bad? Like the people that were closest to me was, yeah, it was that bad. Yeah, it was that bad,
Yeah.
So like we just, you lie so much, about pretty much everything. And it just becomes a part of your core, selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, to my core, and it just, yeah, I look back now and I mean, I had to clean a lot of that up, in order to sit here and talk about it with somebody now, or I can talk about it with anybody now. But I wasn't able to do that, and that's one of the gifts, that is one of the gifts of recovery. That's one of the gifts of sobriety, is being able to own my own shit,
One of the things that I've come to learn myself, and I'd be interested to get your perspective on it, having walked the path you walked. So I view values and principles in our lives like muscles, and if you don't exercise them,
yeah,
they get very weak, and as you exercise the unhealthy ones, they get strong. So like me, my dishonesty muscle was very strong because I learned to lie from a very young age. By the age of 6, I was lying about what had happened in my house, who I was, in order to fit in, and we all have that need to belong and connect. And over time, I found myself lying, believing my own lies, and I had such I had such a high threshold of what dishonesty was. It was like, well, I never walked into a Wells Fargo bank with a ski mask and a gun and robbed it. I mean, I'm an honest guy, you know, but I never saw the subtleties of what it really meant to be rigorously honest, to really, when somebody asked me where you are and what you're doing, to be able to say, this is where I am and this is what I'm doing, because I had this kind of warm blanket of shame and guilt around a lot of the things I was doing. So, you know, I think when our beliefs and our behaviors get out of alignment, who we want people to see us as and who we actually are, when those two dials kind of start to separate, we create this integrity gap. And then we just, as you said, we're lost. And now we're just kind of pouring a bunch of stuff on it to make it go away and feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally, I see exactly what you're saying. And you're putting out a lot of fires, you know, when you tell that many lies, you're always putting out fires and feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions. And it's hard, you know, and it's tiring and it's exhausting. And wow, I really need a drink now because this is exhausting, you know, and now I'm really confused. Now the noise in my head is worse than it ever was. You know, that's what kept the fire going, right? Is all of those lies and all of that deceit and all of that shit that I was doing literally kept it all going. It keeps it going because until some of that stuff's, you know, then I mean, like there's so much anxiety, there's so much, you know, like confusion. So like, you know, I just keep putting fuel on the fire. But on the reverse side of that, like you said, if I want to, once I change those behaviors, I need to work them regularly on a regular basis. And if I don't, they are going to slip away. Like it's, you know, it is based on what I put in each and every day. Like if I want to be honest and a good person, and, you know, it's the same thing when we do something like physically, if we're looking to get in good shape, you know, I have to do it all and I have to do it pretty regularly. I mean, you can't work out one day and expect at the end of the month, like, oh, I look great. No, it doesn't work that way. You know, I want to live a life where I'm free of all of that stuff. Well, then I need to put in the work every day. I need to try to be a better person every day. I need to, like, you know, put my hand out to other people every day. And when I'm not, I can undoubtedly recognize the days when I'm, you know, the days I feel off or the days that I'm not participating in what I should be doing, you know, and that's the reality, you know. But so, yeah, it really comes down to you have to do it regularly.
So as this life of yours is progressing, and as obviously the consequences are stacking up, where, you know, I'm always interested to find out what the catalyst for change is. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
we can tell people that, you know, and I don't like the idea that we have to hit rock bottom. I mean, the elevator goes all the way to the bottom. You're welcome to get
sure.
off at any stop. You know,
I
the,
say
the
it all the
truth
time. You can
is,
get off any floor you want,
yeah,
any floor you want, hop off.
and you don't have to be sick to get better. You know, Trevor
Yeah.
Moawad, who's a mental conditioning coach for Russell Wilson, passed away last year. He's a mentor of mine, and he really drilled that into me, which is you don't have to be sick to get better. You know, you don't have to go any further down. That you can have your last bad day today if you, as you
Sure.
just said, you know, change your behavior. So what was the catalyst for change for you, man?
Okay. You know, like what I was, life was getting pretty good, I guess. You know, I had my children young. You know, I was 22 when my daughter was born, 25 when my other son was born, 27 and a half when the third child was born. Just working, you know, young with kids and just doing the best you can. And then good opportunities come along and, you know, buy a business and in the restaurant industry, and that's going well. But I'm drinking every day. And my wife at the time is, things are not good. You know, like there's just a lot of arguing going on because of, you know, the business is okay, but I work all the time and I drink, and that's kind of the topic of conversation quite a bit. And I mean, there were always episodes, you know, pre-children, with the kids, you know, like because of work and, you know, passed out again, coming in at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I deserve this. I work, you know, just all the bullshit, you know, that I tell myself and that I, you know, put her through. And so basically what had happened was what planted the seed was, she said, either we go to counseling or I'm not doing this, you know? And, I said, okay, fine. Well, we went to counseling. So we go to therapy, and I liked it. I kind of liked therapy because I wasn't, like, when I'm telling my side of the story, I wasn't always the bad guy. So like, that was kind of cool. Like the therapist was kind of on my side, it seemed sometimes. So I'm like, all right, this is great. So we're in therapy for about a year and a half. And I would try to control the drinking here and there, but then there were still days where it just went off the rails, and weekends where it would go off the rails. And then we were in therapy one night, and by this time it's like a year and a half in, and I respect the therapist. I do. I respect her opinion. She says, why don't you just try AA? And I was like, nah, it's not happening. I said, look, my aunt was in AA. I said, my other aunt was in AA. I said, it's not for me. It's just not. And I was not a religious person. I mean, my wife, she has religion and she has a strong faith, and she raised my kids that way, and that was all great. And I'm okay. I support it in that aspect, but I don't go. I mean, that's just, I turned my back on that a long time ago. And I did when I was probably 9. I was done with that. So she was like, why don't you just try it? And I was like, I'm not. And she goes, there's, you don't necessarily have to just get all hung. I said, you know what? Fine. I'll fucking go. I said, I'll go tomorrow. And she grabs this list, like she pulls it out like from her desk. And she's like, if you leave right now, there's a meeting at the brick church that you could make it to. So being the spiteful SOB that I am, I'm like, fine, I'll go. So I go. And I tell this story. This is it. This is another pivotal moment in my life. So I get to this meeting. It's in a basement of a church. Now, it's the church that I went to as a child that I stopped going to when I was like 9 years old.
Wow.
So it's in the basement of the church that we used to break into the basement, like, when we were like young and drink in there and do shit when they had like stuff going on. So it's in the church basement, and I get in there, and there's like these tables set up like in the middle of the room, like a horseshoe. So I've never been to a meeting in my entire life. I have no idea how this works. And I just go and I sit down at an empty seat, and I'm at like the top of the horseshoe, and there's this guy sitting next to me, and I am lost. I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like looking around, and I'm like, this guy goes, how you doing? I said, how are you? And he goes, my name's John. I said, I'm Mike. And he's like, nice to meet you. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I have no idea how this works. And he was like, oh, he's like, yeah, he's like, it's a big book meeting. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means either. He's like, all right, listen, the meeting's going to start. He goes, and, they're going to do some stuff, and it's going to go like, we're going to read from the book. He goes, and it's going to go around the room. And if it gets to you, you can either read where they left off, or you can say pass, and you don't have to read. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. So I'm sitting there, the meeting's going on, and we're reading. So I'm following along, and it gets to me. And this is my passage. My wife became deeply interested in it. It was her interest that sustained mine. Though I at no time seemed it might be an answer to my liquor problem, how my wife kept her faith and courage during all those years, I'll never know. But she did. If she had not, I know I would have been dead a long time ago. For some reason, we alcoholics seem to have the gift of picking out the world's finest women. Why they should be subjected to the tortures we inflict upon them, I cannot explain. Pass.
Wow.
I looked up, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And I was floored, because I get chills to this day when I think about that moment, because for somebody like me that didn't have any sort of belief whatsoever like that, and I lived my life along the lines of things were just major coincidences. This was a very difficult coincidence. This was just too much of a coincidence. And it didn't, like, that moment didn't get me sober. It didn't keep me sober, but it fucking planted a seed that I couldn't let go of. It was a deeply planted seed. And what it did was it kind of, we went back to therapy the next week, and, she asked, how was the meeting? I said, it was okay. It was okay. And she's like, well, you going to go again? I said, yeah, I'll check it out. So that's what I did. I bounced to about 2 meetings a week, 1 meeting a week for about a year. And in that time, I drank intermittently. I wasn't drinking as much at some of the times. I was really trying to control it because I was trying to go to these meetings. But because I was drinking still here and there, I didn't talk to people at the meetings. I didn't share at the meetings. I didn't get connected with anybody. I just kind of went. It kept my wife off my ass. It kept my therapist off my ass. And at the end of a year, I wanted to jump off a bridge. And that is the God's honest truth. And that is where I ended up. I ended up at a point in my life where I have a wife, I have 3 beautiful children, I have a business, I have a beautiful home, I have a life people would dream of, and I don't want to live. I literally am dead inside. You know, you want to talk about everything looks good on the outside, everything is wonderful. And I literally am thinking to myself on a daily basis, they would just be better off without me. My life is, everything is a mess. At this point in time, my business is upside down because I just can't get a handle on things anymore. And I was at a point where I ended up saying, I can't do this anymore, because I always said to myself that when the day comes that if everybody says it, Mike's a good guy. If he just stopped drinking, I just don't understand. Like, if he just stopped, everything would be fine. Why doesn't he just stop? He's got a great life, and what those people didn't understand is every time that I tried to stop, every time that I put down the drink, that the further away from I got from that drink and that drug, the faster the spinning was in my head and the tighter the knot was in my stomach, because I wanted to, when I got further away from it, I didn't have what I needed. Right. I'm walking around with what I now know is untreated alcoholism, and I needed something to fill that void. And the only thing that made those pains go away for me at that time was the alcohol. So I ended up in a rehab, and this is the moment that changed it all. Like this is literally the moment that changed it all. When I finally made the decision that I would go to rehab, my mom, like my wife doesn't want me in the house. So I have to leave the house. Shit had hit the fan. I no longer have control of the fan. My mom is like, they're trying to get me into a rehab. I can stay at her house until we get in. So she's trying to find a bed for me. And we finally get in somewhere. Now, mind you, when I made the decision I was going to rehab, I'm on the computer. I'm looking at these beautiful places. I'm like, okay, this is going to be great, right? I'm going to be on the beach. That's not where I ended up. I did not end up. I ended up on the 3rd floor of Bon Secours Hospital in Port Jervis, New York, in a MICA unit. And this is not what I asked for. That was like my instant thoughts, like when I got there, not to mention, like, literally on the ride to rehab, I contemplated jumping out of my mother's car. And because we're in a snowstorm, I'm like, if I just jumped out now, this would all be over. Because, fear starts to set in. Who am I going to be? Like, is this really happening? I mean, is it really that bad? Am I really going to rehab? I always said I would stop if I really needed to. I guess I need to stop. I want to stop. I fucking can't stop. I guess I'm going, and I went. And about 3 days in, I hated it. Every time I talk to my mom on the phone, I'm like, they don't understand. They don't, they're not listening to what I'm trying to tell them, and my mom being, the enabler that she was at the time, she's trying to help me out. She's trying to get me into a different rehab. And so I went in there on February 12th, and on February 17th, 5 days in, I was 3 days in. No, yeah, 5 days. I'm 5 days in. And on the 17th, I'm on the phone with my then 4-year-old son. So my 4-year-old son says to me, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "What's up, buddy?" They think I'm at work. So he's like, "Hey, you're going to be at my birthday party tomorrow, right, Dad?" I'm like, "I don't know, bud. I don't know if I'm going to make it." And he's like, "No. You know where it is, Dad. You know what time it's at. You'll be there." And the next day, February 18th, is his 5th birthday, and his party is planned. And I know where his party is at because we planned it. and I'm not going to be there. And here's this little kid asking his dad, because in his eyes, I'm this great person and I love him more than anything in the entire world. And I'm telling him, like, I don't know if I'm going to be there because I'm at work and I don't know if I'm going to make it. He's like, no, 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 you'll be there, Dad. And I got off the phone with my son and I went into my room. And because I had tiptoed around the rooms of AA for about a year, and I still never grasped this idea of any sort of God or anything in my life, I had exasperated every single option. And I had nowhere. And I say this all the time. And Abe Lincoln used to say this. Abe Lincoln said, I reached points in my life where I had nowhere else to turn but up. And that's where I was. I, for the first time in my life, came to the realization that the things that I was doing were not only affecting my life, but they were hurting other people around me. And not only were they hurting people around me, they were hurting the people that I loved more than anything in the entire world. So when I hit my knees, when my mouth opened and I say that things came out and things that I had done wrong, everything I could ever think of came out of my mouth in those very moments as the tears rolled. And it was insane, because when I was done, when there was nothing else to come out, I stood up and I felt better than I had felt in a very, very long time. And crazier, because you just keep adding to all of this insanity of coincidences. The nurse knocks on my door and says, there's a phone call for you. And I'm like, holy shit, who now? She's like, it's your mom. So it's not phone call hours, right? So yeah. Like, she's like, you can take the phone call at the nurse's station. Your mother said she needs to speak to you. So mind you, when I was on my knees, I made a promise on my knees because I needed help and I didn't know who I was speaking to. All I said was, I don't know what's out there. If there's anything out there, if there is anything out there, I need help and I can't do this. And I will do everything in my power, everything I possibly can to make this right and to try better and to do better. But I need help. Knock on door. I get the phone. It's my mom. My mom says, I have great news. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I got you into another rehab. She's like, I can come pick you up tomorrow. They have a bed for you. And I said, no need. She said, what do you mean? I said, I don't need to go anywhere. And she's like, what do you mean you don't need to go anywhere? I said, thank you very much. I said, but I'm okay. She's like, you're okay. She's like, what's going on? I said, I can't explain it. I cannot explain what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I said, all I know is that I am right where I'm supposed to be right now. And that's all I need to know. And that was really like, that was like another pivotal moment in that was a turning point for me in getting sober, and then it like really a lot of, and then things just kind of played out from there. I was only in that rehab for 10 days. Insurance purposes, my insurance basically said that we'll only cover 10 days. The rehab was like, we can finance the other days if you want. And I was like, no. So they basically said, like, you can leave and we'll pay for, your insurance will pay for intensive outpatient. And if you fail intensive outpatient, then you can come back to inpatient. I'm like, man, this system is so fucked. They tell people to go out and fail so you can get it covered to come back in. And I was like, I didn't have to do that, because then, I say another coincidence, God placed somebody in my life after that rehab. And, he kind of gave me some solutions to the things I needed to do in my life and gave me a lot of hope. I had those things to hold on to, that turning point with that phone call with my son was, something I'll never forget, undoubtedly.
It's interesting. We had, Ryan Leaf on the podcast last week. Ryan Leaf obviously had a very public fall from grace, and he was incarcerated after being, second pick in the 1998 NFL draft. And what a story he's got. But when he was in his darkest days and he finally had that experience you just described, he described the same thing, that as low as things seemed, right? Because nothing had really changed, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the business hadn't come around. You were still estranged from your family. You know, it wasn't like it wasn't like all the lights had come on and the bank account got full and the heart was. But you had some hope because you had
Yeah.
gotten honest with yourself. You
Yeah.
got honest with yourself on your knees, and
Yeah,
something
that's
and
exactly
something
what it
else.
was. It's just, and it's really like, that's like, that's it right there. Like you said it. I got honest with myself. There was nobody else around. And it's really like hard to put into words to describe the feeling of that moment. But oh my God, like all of these things that I was so angry about, the people that had wronged me, like that I was so mad about, man.
You turned the finger.
Yeah. I was like,
You
holy
finally
shit.
grabbed
Like,
you grab finally grabbed the thumb. It's not
yeah, I
them.
was
It's
like,
not them I got to worry about. It's me.
no, and it's like, and those are the things I know today, like, and that's, like I say it all the time, like whenever there is friction in my life, I am part of that friction, and 99.9% of the time, I probably may have instigated part of it, so I need to own that stuff, when there's things going on, when there's discourse, where's my part, so like you said, that moment on my knees, like, it's all or nothing right now. That's the way I looked at it. And, and that's probably one of the first promises I kept in my entire life. To this day, that was it. That was my turning point. That was the point where, I stepped from bridge to shore and said, I'm going to do everything I possibly can. And I did, and I'm blessed to say, like, I've just celebrated 14 years, and that's a miracle in my eyes.
It's really remarkable. Both of us have. We literally
Yeah.
have the same anniversary. We're
Yeah.
both
It's
14
nuts.
years sober, and here we are on the phone together, or
It's
on the Zoom
crazy.
together. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And you described something. When I train mental performance, and I train, and I think, by the way, I think recovery is a performance exercise. I think
Yes.
George Mumford, who's worked with the Lakers, he's worked with the Bulls, he's worked with Kobe and Michael. He talks about recovery being, a high performance activity. I mean, it's not about the things that we're supposed to do. It's, can we do them when we don't feel like them? And what you described is something that, really rings with me, which is, can you give up what you want in the moment for what you want the most? Can you give up going to that birthday party for your 4-year-old son so that you can have long-term sobriety? Can you keep a
Yeah.
commitment to yourself and not take that quick hit of, pleasing him or doing what you think you want in the moment to get what you want the most? Because that's really what you did.
Yeah. It's funny, like when people talk about it, um, I live my life in a way like I didn't live in the past, right? Like, today I have a lot of gratitude, whereas in the past, that concept was very foreign to me. Want what you have? No, I didn't understand what that meant. Want the next thing is what I lived my life by. When I get the next thing, life will be good. When I get the next thing, life will be better. When I get the next thing, I was always looking to get the next thing. I was never content with the things that I had, and today, I start my day. It seems hokey and it's like so cliche nowadays, but it works, starting my day like with gratitude every day. Three things. I keep it very, very simple. Like I don't sit for a very long time. I don't, it doesn't, it's not a process where I have to like think for hours. And, people say that all the time, like, well, I don't have enough time, to do that. I'm like, it takes me 10 minutes to do my morning routine, to sit and like first three things like that pop into my head. Like, what am I grateful for? Number one, always at the top of the list, is my sobriety, because all of the things that are going to come after that would not exist in my life if I wasn't sober, period. I know that with every fiber of my being, that if I were to go back, and be drinking, it would escalate because it's progressive. And I have no idea what it would look like 14 years later. That lying dormant for that long, if the switch was ever flipped back on, I don't know if I would ever make it back. And I'm not willing to take that chance today. So I am grateful every day for that. And then usually the other two, like, sometimes it'll be my kids. Sometimes it'll be a phone call I got from one of my kids, or it might just be the smell of coffee, brewing, because I got up and I put the coffee pot on. I'm like, oh, that smells good today. Or that first sip is just something special today. Some days the first sip of coffee hits different than other days, and I'm grateful for that. It doesn't have to be like, I don't need to sit and, reinvent the wheel every day with what I'm grateful for. Three things, because when the day goes off the rails, as days do in life, I need a place that I can come back to. And that's what I do today. I don't go rushing out the door like I used to when I was running around like a maniac. I take those 10, 15 minutes to myself in the morning. I do like a quick little list. I do like a quick little daily reading, and I might reflect for a few minutes on it. And that is it gives me something to kind of reminisce on if the day goes off the rails, oh, you know what? Everything was very peaceful this morning. Things are not so, I can go back to that moment. And it helps, it helps a lot. Like, it's like you say, we get better as we go along because we continue to practice these things, and the more I do them, the more natural they become. And it's a matter of, for me, I want the best life I can have because I want to be able to give more to other people. And if I'm myself am not the best I can be, how the hell am I supposed to give to other people? What can I give to someone if I'm not, if I'm not in the right place myself? You said it in the very beginning, we cannot transmit what we don't possess. And if I'm expecting to give good things to other people, if I myself am not filling myself up with good things, I'm of no use to myself or to others,
Yeah, remarkable. And you can see it in your eyes, you can hear it in your voice. And, I think one of the things that's underestimated is, that the heavy lifting really just begun. When you got out, and I've heard it said the guy that goes into the rehab or the guy that goes into the detox, man, he's got to come out a different dude. If the same guy comes out, he's going to get what he got before. And that goes for alcohol, it goes for drugs, it goes for any kind of issues that you're having achieving what you want in life. I mean, if you don't have a personality change and start to change the way that you live, you'll keep getting what you're getting. And so you had to, kind of clean up a lot of wreckage, and you did that living a different way, right? So some of these new principles that you started to live by were the things that you were able to lean on to deal with some of that kind of early crisis management.
Yeah. And that's, what I would say that, I think one of the most important things for me early in sobriety and recovery was I got connected to the right people, and I stayed connected to those people. And when I say that I got connected to the right people, I got connected to people that I was willing to share how I was feeling with, because that was very important. I was unable to do that in the past. So holding into my feelings and so what I had going on, always trying to figure stuff out on my own, didn't turn out well, right? Like, I had to change as a person. And that was one of the changes I need to make, look, running it that way did not work well for you because look at the way your life is right now. I think that if maybe you tried it this way, perhaps you might have some different results. So if I want different results, I need to do different things. And that was one of the first things that I did is I was honest with myself on my knees in that room. I needed to get honest with other people as well. So I had somebody close enough to me that I could get honest with about everything, and I remember being like, I was very connected, really trying to work a program of recovery, and life was great, right? Like, and I'm feeling good. And then about 6 months into recovery, I felt like the freaking carpet got pulled out from underneath me. It seemed like everything that was bad in my life was coming rushing at me at one time. And I remember calling up my friend and I was like, blah, 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 blah. Like, just going off. And he was like, whoa, 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 So like, just kept going and kept going. And then all of a sudden, like, it's silence, right? Like nothing but silence on the other end of the line. And I'm like, hello, are you there? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, are you going to say anything? He said, are you finished? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, sounds like you're living life. I was like, what? And he's like, listen, man. He goes, I don't even know how many things you just said because you lost me after like the first couple minutes. He goes, but this is what I'm going to tell you. Pick one thing out of all of those things that are rambling around in your head right now. And let's work on that today. Just that. One thing.
Yeah, keep it. I mean, that's, when you look at being solution focused and you just say, if I can just break this down to what's the next step, it all seems overwhelming. When your hand's right in front of your face, you can't see a thing. But when you move it back just to here, even it's like, oh, there's 5 fingers and there's my palm.
It's not bad.
It's not too bad, but we have this, this overwhelming feeling that we've got to
do it all today. Yeah. Got to do it all.
I had my brother is a maintenance manager, training manager, leadership training manager at NetJets, and he called me the other day or texted me the other day, and he said, people will say all the time, how do you eat an elephant? And I said, yeah, one bite at a time. He says, I got a better way. I said, what's that? He goes, have an elephant barbecue and invite all of the people that you trust the most to come over and help you have a bite. And I was like, damn.
There you go.
That's the way to do it. And so getting some perspective and getting some help, obviously really important. And
Yeah.
it's about consistency. And so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about how your
Yeah.
life
So
changed,
like,
what
you know,
you're doing
everything
now,
got
how the
really
kids
great.
are doing.
Yeah, life got really good, you know, for about 5 years. You know, like 5 years, I stay very connected. You know, every promise and every dream is like coming true. Life is fantastic. You know, finances are better than ever. You know, got everything back and then some. And life was so good that, you know, I kind of got very disconnected from recovery itself. You know, like recovery itself, I got disconnected from it. There just wasn't enough time. Wasn't enough time. You know, and like we talked about earlier, when you're not practicing these things on a regular basis, what happens? Thank God I didn't drink or do drugs, but those mannerisms and the way that I act towards other people and, you know, thinking that, you know, better than those things come back. And I was not the best person in the world. And, you know, and things suffer because of that, you know, but my kids were growing up, you know what I mean? Like, you know, daughter, you know, my kids all did very, very well in school, you know, everybody, you know, they're wonderful children. You know what I mean? Like I got great, great, great kids. And my wife, she was an absolute rock star. You know, I can never say a bad thing about her, even though that we're not together now. Um, I can't say a bad thing about her because she is probably undoubtedly the best mother I've ever known of anybody. Like she put our children first and foremost in everything she ever did. She made every sacrifice that a person would make for her children and for her family. She did. And unfortunately, like, you know, that kind of, you know, you know, our relationship paid a price, you know, because of my actions and things of such, you know, and over the course of like those next 5 years, being so busy with life, getting a child off to college, getting another child off to college, you know, I mean, like I said, my kids are bright, you know, they went to, you know, major universities with, you know, scholarships and, you know, graduate summa cum laude. And, you know, my son is you know, you know, he's a absolute genius. You know, he's the, you know, the salutatorian of high school and goes to one of the, you know, top engineering schools in the country. And, you know, it's just, he's incredibly brilliant. And then, you know, our youngest son is, you know, brilliant and one of the, you know, greatest just personalities. And he's doing really well with his life and all these great things. You know, I've got all these great things going on and I'm just so busy with life that I'm never present in moments that are going on because I'm just so busy, right? I got four businesses simultaneously running, you know, operating, all restaurant involved type things. And I'm just working like crazy and just trying to keep the locomotive going. So anytime, like, the wife wants to talk, it's like, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. We can talk about it later. Let's talk about it in 2 months. And that was my response for a lot of things. And my wife got to the point where, you know, like in 2018, that, you know, it just got to a point where she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, huh? Like, this, to talk about an empty feeling. I don't know if I had felt that way in a long, long, long time. Like the confusion, everything rushed back, like the noise in my head and like the uncomfortability. Like I literally felt like I had a hangover. Like I was so distraught and angry, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And the only thing I knew to do was I needed to go back to a meeting is what I needed to do. Not that I was feeling like I was going to drink, but I needed connection in something. So that's what I did. And I reached out to, like, you know, to my friend and talked to him, and I was like, told him everything that was going on. And wouldn't you know, like here I am freaking out, everything. I'm a madman. And he says to me, and this is why I love him. This is why you need people like this in your life. He says, "Do you want to know what I think?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Because you're probably not going to like it." And I said, "Okay." He said, "You need to stop concerning yourself with what she's doing. It has nothing to do with you." I said, "What do you mean it has nothing to do with me?" And he goes, "It has nothing to do with you. Anything that she is doing, you are not going to change." He goes, "Obviously, you are a mess right now." He goes, "And if I were her, I wouldn't want you either at the moment. So anything that you do, you need to start working on yourself again." He goes, "And this, my suggestion to you right now, you need to go find somebody to work with." And that's what I did. I got reconnected I got reconnected, and I've stayed reconnected. And then, unfortunately, I look at it like I say, unfortunately, but fortunately, like we were not able to reconcile. Now this woman had been a part of my life since I was 15 years old. And that is a long time, I mean, because you figure I was 15 and 43 when all of this went down, 44. So that's a long time to have somebody as a part of your life. And I did. I was I was very, very, very lost with it for a long time. And I would lie, and I was reconnected, but I was still like there was a lot going on in my head, right? And I remember lying, like literally I can lying on the couch at night, just unable to sleep, and it would, these plaguing thoughts would keep me up. And the one question that just kept over and over and over playing in my mind was why? Why? Why won't she talk to me? Why can't we work on this? Why? And one night had to be about 10 months after the shit hit the fan. Like one night I was just like, it's like the lights went on. And it was like literally the answer was like given to me, or I know what happened. I got myself out of the way, and I heard really intuitively, like sometimes there's just no why. Sometimes there is no answer. This is what it is. This is life as it is. You are not, you need, this is a big lesson in acceptance, that no matter how hard you try to force your will into this situation, it is not going to turn out the way that you want it to. And it came to me, and I was like, and it was another freeing moment in my life where I was like, you know what? If this is what it is, this is the way it's meant to be, then I have to just wish her all the best. Because like I said in the beginning, she is the best mom I've ever known of any person to ever be. Like she loves my kids more than anything. And if there's anything else, like, then that's all that matters. You know what I mean? Like, she's still an incredible mom, and there's nothing in the world that she wouldn't do for those kids. So, I mean, I was just like, you know what? It may not be the way that I envisioned my life to turn out, or our life to turn out, but this is the way it is right now. So I was able to kind of move on from that point. And I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you, and I wouldn't have done a lot of the things that I've done over the last couple of years had those things worked a different way. And that's the beauty of life. When we start accepting life as it is, unfolding in front of us. I got present in the moment, and I said, look, this is where you're at. And look, you're either going to move forward and continue living life and, participating, or you're not, and I chose to participate. I like the analogy like that. Life is kind of like, like going downstream in a canoe, like we're moving downstream, and like sometimes like there's rocks in the way, and that rock can either like sink the canoe or it can nudge you in a different direction. And I like being nudged in different directions.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, one of the principles that I think you live by today is acceptance. And when you apply,
Yeah.
when you live out a principle instead of preference, and you really start to ask what principle do I need to apply to this situation? Because I think one of the things I've learned, Mike, is that when you ask better questions, you get better answers. And why is not a great question. Why is a haystack, man? It just because I can come up with lots of reasons why. Most of them serve me.
Yes.
What is a better question?
Yep.
What am I going to do?
Yep.
Because I don't control events and I don't control outcomes. What I control is how I respond. And
Yeah.
when I ask better questions, I get better answers. And why this is happening is not as relevant as what am I going to do about it.
Yeah. That's probably like one of you said it perfectly right there. Like a big lesson, I think, that people, that I learned, and I wish more people grasped, and I wish they grasped it sooner than I did in the beginning, was we have no control over external situations. People can't change people, like, but I can control the way I react to it. External situations have no control over the way that I feel unless I allow them to, no matter how bad they are, good, bad, or indifferent. They do not control, they do not dictate how I feel. I get to do that, and that's something that, recovery gave me. It gave me the ability to have that control, and listen, there's days I like to take the wheel. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, move over. I got this. I'm driving the bus today, and those days don't turn out so well. When I decide that I'm driving because I'm going to do what I want to do, it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. And that's why it's important. We talked about this, like having important people in your life, getting that outside perspective, because there's times where I've got a situation going on and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm being stubborn, and because I'm human, and, I think I can work through this, and I'll lay there, and, the head is going, the thoughts are going. And then I'm like, all right, let me run this idea by one of my people, one of my tribe. Let me run this by him. So I usually run it by the same person. And when I throw that idea out there, he says, you're not really going to do that, are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, that's a fucking terrible idea. He goes, that is going to blow up right in your face. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, how long have you been thinking about that? I'm like, I don't know, like 3 days. You need to rethink it, because that is a terrible idea. And then we go through as to why it's a terrible idea. And he's absolutely right, but me, left to my own devices, and, like the ego gets, wants to slip back in there. And I think it's a great idea, and it's not, because why? Because who is it serving? It's serving me. Right. And if I leave that as the end result is like, how is this best going to serve me? No, the results are not good. How is this best going to serve everybody? How is this best going to serve somebody else? Where's my part in this? Those are the better questions,
Yeah, those are great questions. So a lot of our listeners, a lot of people that tune in to Overcome Out Loud, they're looking for some answers in their own lives. They're in a spot, whether it's just a relationship issue or a work issue or, a friend issue or a performance issue, and they're stuck. And
yeah,
what's the, if you were to give the top one or two answers to the question, I'm in a spot and I'm stuck, and I'm looking to get out. What's the number one kind of piece of advice that you would give, Mike, to people that are struggling with something in their lives and looking to get to the other side of it?
I say all the time, first and foremost, like I say it, whether it's recovery or anything, is to get connected to other people. Find people that have done it before you. Get connected to other people. Like whether it's in business, seek out the people that have done it before you. You want to, no matter what it is, find the people that are best at that. Ask them how they did it. Reach out to people that are doing it, and a bunch of people, because collectively, if you ask 4 people how they did something, 99.9% of those people have no problem telling you how they did it, because they know that it's up to you to take the action to do it or not. Right. So like there's no problem sharing information and sharing knowledge with people. We want to share how we did it. It's kind of like, it's like, oh, this is how I did it. So my advice to anybody that's like kind of stuck in a situation is, and you want to get somewhere, you ask people that have already been there how they did it. And like I said, collectively, you can get decades of knowledge within minutes. When you get people, right? You ask people collectively, you get decades of information and knowledge, because some of these people worked a lifetime to get to where they were, acquiring all that knowledge. And here they are sharing it with you within minutes. Now, if you were to try to fucking go head steam and do it all on your own, you know how much trial and error and how many years it's going to take you to get to the same place and figure the same things out. You're going to make all the mistakes that they made already on the way. They're going to help you navigate through some of those pitfalls. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is be willing to put yourself out there. Get over the fear of asking because you're afraid of the answer that you're going to get. I can't do this. Get over that fear and just ask people. They are more than willing to help you get over those things. And they're more than willing to help you, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a sponsor, whatever it is. whether it's just somebody that's up the ladder in business, right? Like, so even if it's a business standpoint, you want to know how you make it to, how do I make it to senior VP? You just got a job in the mailroom. Go ask the senior VP how he got there. He'll tell you.
Dude, that is so solid. I just got off the phone with Colin Henderson, who actually is, not just a friend of mine, but he's my coach. And he likes to say, no one needs to win or worry alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I mean, like, God, it's like, your brother said it to you, like, how do you eat an elephant? Invite your friends over. When we do it together, it's so much, and it's a lot more fun. It
Yeah.
is more fun when we're doing stuff together. Cheering other people's wins on is invigorating to me. Like I get fired up about that stuff. I want to see everybody win. I want to see everybody succeed.
Well, you are the reason I do this. Stories like yours. From chained up in a hospital, with a set of handcuffs on, to helping people like you are now, creating the coaching platform that you are for people that are looking to make changes in their lives. And so give us a little, and we'll obviously have all of your contact information in the show notes. But how can people find you, follow you, connect with you, and,
Sure.
and learn more from you, bro?
Right now, you can find me on Instagram. On Instagram, it's at Better Beginning Now. On Facebook, you can find me. It's under Michael Conklin. You can find, like, we just launched a Facebook group. That's a big thing I want to grow, because it's going to be a Facebook group community. It's a recovery community, and it's for everybody in recovery, because this is not just a disease. This is not just something that affects the addict or the alcoholic. It affects everybody that they're in contact with, and everybody needs those answers. I want the family members to be able to go somewhere to get answers and reach out and connect with other people. I want, people that are either curious about, where they're at in their life with alcohol or drugs, whether they're already working a program and they feel like it's lacking a little bit and I need a little bit more. Like, I feel like I need more, because that was me. I did, like, look, man, when I got sober, the people I was surrounded with, they were like, look, man, you didn't get sober to be miserable, right? I didn't get sober to be miserable. What do you want? And I'm like, I want to live. I mean, I was always chasing the buzz, and I wasn't looking for like a little baby buzz. I wanted a big buzz. So that's what I want in my sobriety. I want to feel like I'm alive. And I hear it too many times. Like, people are like, oh, I tried it and like everything was so boring. I'm like, it doesn't have to be. I've done more things in sobriety than I ever did. I've accomplished more than I ever would have if I was still drinking. I climbed to the top of, like, mountains, sober. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was drunk. So they can find me, like, the recovery community is Better Beginning Now, and that's on Facebook. Yeah. Then the other big thing is, I want people to, go to the website, www.betterbeginningnow.com, and, sign up to our email list, sign up to the email list, and, we'll send you, some information. We'll keep you in the loop whenever things are going on, new things coming up. We got a lot of things coming down the pike in the next year. I have a lot of ideas, I've got some time now. I was, one of the wonderful things that sobriety has given me is the ability to go do things. And, I was doing a lot of snowboarding like the last year. And I was actually, I was at my second trip out in Colorado this year, and I had a season ending injury. I absolutely shattered my leg. I'm going to be on crutches for like 6 months, but, it's funny, because it's another situation in my life where in the past I would have been so mad. And I would have been like, why is this happening to me? And like, man, I had all these plans for the winter, and I had I would planned on being out in Colorado and Utah, like 2 to 3 weeks out of every month. And now here I am on crutches. I'm like, why is this happening to me? And instead, I'm really able to look at it as like, why did this happen for me? This is a situation that happened for me. It could have been a lot worse. I have 2 plates, 3 rods, a whole bunch of screws in my leg now, and it's going to be a long recovery back. But I literally, I've been kind of documenting since I got the accident. I pulled my phone out literally 10 minutes after I broke my leg and shattered it on the mountain. And people are like, I can't believe that you had just done all that damage, and like, I was in a good, I made sure I wasn't bleeding anywhere. I was like, okay, you're okay. You're okay. And my mindset went into a good place, and I just kind of like, my mom was like, I think you're in shock. I'm like, I'm not in shock. I'm okay. Like, everything is going to be all right. So yeah, so like, this has given me the opportunity to kind of really focus on this, and I'm really excited about the, the next few months. But like I said, we got a lot of stuff that's going to be rolling out by taking continuous and consistent action. Like you said, it's about consistency, how I work my sobriety, how I work things in my life. If you stay consistent, if you find people that you can connect with that are going to hold you accountable, you have a better chance, and that's why, like you said, you have a mentor, you have a coach, you have people that you talk to, because they help keep me accountable as to what I'm doing. If I say that I'm going to do something and then I don't do it, sometimes I need a nudge of somebody going like, dude, I thought you said you were going to do that. In the past, it would be like, yeah, it's not a good idea. No. You were really wanted to do that. So what's holding you back? So it's good to have people to call you out on stuff. So
awesome, man. Well, you made my day. Thanks for jumping on. I mean, I know we had this slot and you were just like so willing and so excited to sit down and share your story with me, and it really meant a lot to me for you to jump on. It's great to get a chance to hear how you overcame and how you're using that to help other people. So man, just be well and keep doing what you're doing.